Good morning, everybody. Thank you for joining us. I am Megan with the Academy of Logic and Light, and we are a community educational platform that provides a safe space for people to practice their spirituality without being indoctrinated. Um, we have monthly meetups. Our month of July meetup is going to be in the canyon. I'm so excited. We're going to have s'mores and despacho ceremony, and it's going to be a wonderful time. And then we also are the Academy of Logic and Light here on YouTube, Instagram, TikTok. We also have a Facebook group, all under the same name. And we're also online at academyoflogicandlight.org. We also have a Patreon. So if you like what you see and you want to support us, you can join our Patreon. And you'll get even more magical content from us. And if you're interested in teaching, we are always looking for people to partner with and teach. We have our astrology teacher, Elle, with us, as well as we have a herbology class that we're going to be starting soon. We're so excited to announce more about that. And but if you teach any cool magical things and you're interested in getting not started with us, but like in on what we're doing and part of our community, we'd love to have you. So you can reach us at academyoflogicandlight@gmail.com or anywhere on social media. So thank you all for joining us. We're here with Elle and Julie, and they're on the other side of me. Happy Independence Day if you celebrate it. If not, like, more power to Julie is jet setting out of the country to celebrate, as is the best. So I'm just gonna go ahead and roll an intro. And I do want to remind everyone, go ahead and pull up your astrology charts and see where you have Scorpio in your chart. That's what we're talking about today, is all about the zodiac sign Scorpio. Thanks.
Hello.
Hello. Thank you, Mike.
Hi, guys.
Thank you.
What's up,
Hello
lady?
from Mexico. If
So
you
jealous.
hear me talking to security guards over here, it's because I'm hanging halfway off of a ledge to get the best signal for this.
They're like, who's this white girl sitting over here? And what is she doing?
Yeah. I'm like, this is a different situation today for sure. I'm here for it.
I like it. Your background is great. The sky's blue. I see a little like palm tree.
Yeah. We're
I love
thriving.
it.
I don't even see if I can control slides from this today. Shoot. I don't have my regular controls either today. Let's see. Oh, there we go. Megan's on top of it, of course. All right. Well, we're doing Scorpio today. I think Scorpio is a funny one. People get a lot of like bad raps about Scorpios sometimes, but best FBI agents, I think.
100%.
I don't think I can change the slides. Okay, cool. Thank you, Megan. Scorpio facts, October 23rd to November 21st. Scorpio is imaginative, passionate, emotional, subtle, persistent, intense, obstinate, and unyielding, which is probably why they have their reputation.
Subtle. Not be how I would use what I would use to describe Scorpio, but maybe with a really balanced, evolved chart. I'll go with subtle.
Yeah, I've never met a subtle Scorpio.
No.
I have quite a few exes that are Scorpios, and I don't think subtle would be a word I would use to describe any of them.
No.
All right, our duality is the feminine energy. Triplicity is water, which I always forget Scorpio is a water sign, but I like to call it like an angry water sign.
like a tidal wave, like a
tsunami.
Water.
Not the subtle water.
No.
Our quadruplicity is fixed. Let's see. Wow, cannot read these tiny. I'm getting old. Here we go. Switch glasses out. I brought two. Okay, there we are. Pluto, the ancient god of the netherworld, and the dead. In astrology, Pluto rules regenerative forces and the beginning and the ends phases of life. Pluto, fun fact, was one of the 3 brothers and 2 sisters born to the Roman god Saturn and his goddess wife, Ops. Upon the death of Saturn and after the defeat of the Titans, the 3 brothers divided the realms of their father. Jupiter received the sky as his dominion, Neptune the sea, Pluto the underworld. Which tracks? The birthstone is topaz, which releases occult powers and brings serenity of mind. It also protects from enemies and illness. The symbol is obviously the scorpion. The sentence is, I desire. A secretive, deadly creature that poisons its enemies, and its stings are often fatal. The glyph is the stinger of the scorpion connected to the representation of the human reproductive organs, the part of the body the Scorpio represents. This was the symbol of the ancient times for the phoenix, bird of immortality and regeneration. In symbolic terms, the curved lines and arrow represent strong emotions tied to practicality and aiming towards higher connection. Our metal, which I don't know why it gives me the giggles, but metal for Scorpio is plutonium. I just think that's just so entertaining. Special colors are crimson, burgundy, maroon, the glowing colors of passion. I mean, that's why I like to date Scorpios, I'll tell you. Passion. Lucky days Tuesday, lucky numbers 2 and 4. I think also they have such a secretive side, and it's just so intriguing, but also secretive sides mean secrets, and that's not always healthy.
See, that's always such a turnoff for me, because I'm like, just hiding something, and I cannot handle. I want everything to be transparent. I want to know everything. I don't want secrets. But
I think that's the hard part. Now I'd probably like sleep with a Scorpio, but not date one.
100%.
Just the passion part. I'm like, you can take your secrets with you. We're not dating.
Yeah.
Excuse me. Our flowers are chrysanthemum and rhododendron. Our trees are blackthorn and bushy trees. Cities are Liverpool, New Orleans, Washington, D.C., and Newcastle. Countries are Norway, Algeria, Morocco, and Tahiti.
Ooh.
That looks like kind of where I'm at right now.
Beautiful.
All right, there we go.
And New Orleans as like really grumpy but dark places. I don't know about the other two. Instantly, I was like, oh yeah, those are pretty dark, heavy. Anytime I go to New Orleans, energy is so heavy, I can barely handle it. It's cool. It's a cool city, but I'm like, I can only be there for a couple of days. I'm too like drained by the time I leave.
I just had so much like magical stuff happen in New Orleans last week. It was like so bizarre.
Oh, really?
Yeah, like long story short, just like warning signs from my spirit guides through like lights and cars and all these different signs, and I was like, okay, thank you, New Orleans.
Yeah, it's like I'm here to tell you something.
Mm-hmm. I was listening.
Oh, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say it's just the whole city is like old witchy, not like new witchy, modern witchy. This is like voodoo and old school witch stuff.
You can feel it.
Oh yeah, 100%. All right, well, I'm gonna go through the planets in Scorpio. I'm actually gonna my eyesight too. So Scorpio stays with the same theme. Fixed sign, so they don't change a lot. So when I go into the sun and the moon, they're all pretty similar as to how they hold their energy, but a little different. Obviously, your moon, you feel, your sun is who you are, but again, it's very, there's a theme with Scorpios, and the biggest, when I think of Scorpio, I just think of power. There's a power sign, like force that it's like I can spot a Scorpio faster than probably any other sign. Or I can I can spot Scorpio placements faster because they have this different kind of way about them. It's very intense. It's very mysterious, dark. And so, darker energy doesn't necessarily mean like negative or bad. It's just the underworld. Pluto is the underworld. So there's like this whole death theme. They really kind of just have a darker energy. They're observers. They like to watch people. They're not going to show up in a room, be the first ones to talk. I mean, maybe if it's like a career kind of thing, that's where it changes, because they're kind of putting on a show. But if it's like a social interaction, a Scorpio, typically, depending on their other placements, Scorpio Sun is not going to show up and be like, hey, what's up, everybody? Let me tell you how my day was. No, that's not it. They're going to observe the room. They're going to take okay, this person's this way, this person's this way. I should probably watch that person. They're very skeptical. They don't trust anyone. So they're just, they watch the room. They see who they're going to vibe with, who they're not. And that's kind of how they make their next move on how they, enjoy the party. They stay or they don't. So Scorpio Suns, sorry, something popped up that said Libra, and I was like, Scorpio Moons, this one's always fun. So I have 2 children with Scorpio Moons, and they are very secretive. They're very, getting to their emotions is like digging away layers and layers, trying to figure out if anything's wrong or what's wrong. They don't want to talk about it. This also can signify emotional abandonment from mother. So like once I really dug into this, I kind of was like, did I abandon my children emotionally? I'm not emotional. I'm not emotional at all. And I am very like, oh, that's no big deal. Or, oh, this is fine. I'm a Libra, so I'm just kind of meh, I'm a Taurus moon. So I don't really dive too deep into things. I'm very practical, and I move on to the next thing. So then I start questioning my Scorpio moon kids. I'm like, hey, was I there for you emotionally? Did I make you feel abandoned as a child? That I didn't care about your emotions? And they're like, and they're Scorpios. They don't really want to talk about it or say, but they're like, maybe a little. I'm like, and so as a mom, that's really hard. But it is. If you have a Scorpio moon, there's probably some emotional abandonment from your mother, which is, something you can work through. I have friends, one of my best friends, she has a Scorpio moon, and she's a great relationship with her mother. They're really close. Capricorn mom. But yeah, she's like, at times there was definitely some emotional abandonment. So that's something that kind of happens with the Scorpio moon. Very secretive. They're emotional, but they hide it. And again, issues with mother. When I say issues with mother, it's more about emotional issues versus like mother wasn't a provider. Mother wasn't physically there for them, just not as emotionally available as they needed. If you have a Scorpio moon child, or if you're in a relationship with a Scorpio moon, they need love, and they need to know that their emotions are valued, and not just like, oh, get over it. Don't say that to a Scorpio moon. That's not what's going to happen. They're not going to get over it. They're going to hold that deep within them for the rest of their life and probably murder you one day. Just saying. Also, Julie is muted because there's something weird with the our platform, that if she talks or the wind blows, and I cut out. And so if anyone's like, why is Julie laughing but no sound is coming, it's because you can't hear her because she's muted. All right, Mercury in Scorpio, dark humor. It's funny. They're funny. They have like this kind of darkness to them. They probably joke about death a lot. They communicate very serious, and they like the depth of a conversation. They don't want small talk. They want to talk about real things. This is also for job purposes. This is a really good one if you have a Scorpio that you, again, I've said this in different signs with different placements, but delivering bad news, you can kind of, I wouldn't say deliver it in such a tactful way, but it's like they can separate their emotions from it. With the Mercury, how they think is very, hard things happen, death happens, and that's just reality. They accept that, and they don't look at it so much as this internal, like they're gone forever thing. So they are good at like reporting bad news or delivering messages that could be difficult for some, that would be too emotional to talk about. The Scorpio would be the man for the job. So Scorpio Mercury, very serious communicator though. They take conversations very serious. Like, don't just say things that you don't mean. They're not going to respect you or have any sort of want or will to be your friend at that point, because they're just like, oh, you just don't know what you're talking about. Scorpio Venus. This is one I would never date. I'm just saying. For you out there that love passion, absolutely. Enjoy. For me, I'm a free soul and a free spirit. And that is the opposite of a Scorpio Venus. They are very serious in relationships. They are very possessive, very sexual. So that might be a benefit for some of you. For me, I'm not into that. I'm like, I don't want to be possessed. I want to be free. Let's have fun. It is not fun. They're very serious. They're very intense. They're very intense lovers. So a lot of people, they need that in their sex life, and that's great. But along with that comes possessive, mine, don't look at them, don't look anywhere else. It's kind of like very possessive placement. Now, if you have a Scorpio Venus and other placements, this could lighten up a little bit. So I say I would never, and someone's probably like, oh my gosh, I had dating someone with a Scorpio Venus, and they could have a lot of things that make them very free. So I don't want to scare you. For me personally, and my Venus is in Virgo, so they're compatible, but does not flow with my whole dynamic of who I am. But very passionate, very sexual. I would say very loyal in relationships, but this person, a lot of times with Scorpio in different placements, I'm going to say this, and don't take this too serious or whatever, because you need to look at their whole chart. These are the people that could have love affairs. It would be very secretive. They would never talk about it. You would never know. And that would be it. It would just be purely about sex, and that's it. So these people are very secretive about their sex lives too. Just happens. But also they could be very loyal. Like I said, it just depends on other placements in their chart. A Scorpio and the Mars and Scorpio. These people are responsible, very resourceful, and can be very manipulative. These people, Scorpio's fixed. They don't move super fast. They're very stuck in their ways. So sometimes to get what they want or to take action in something, they may have to manipulate the situation or make it a benefit for someone else in order to get what they want. It's not a super high energy sign, so getting other people to do things for them is honestly an easier way to go about it. And they have that gift. They have a gift of manipulation and turning things around and twisting it into getting people to do things for them. Very different than Libra. Libra's like, oh my gosh, look at me. And Scorpio's like, here's how this is going to benefit you and why you should do it. And never tell you why it benefited them. Always an agenda behind it. Scorpio rising. Again, mysterious, dark aesthetic, dark lipstick, resourceful. I say resourceful a lot. Scorpios, when the world goes to shit, they are going to be the little survivors because they are resourceful. But having a rising, it kind of, your appearance and how you come about is very much, I would say, goth-like, darker aesthetic, just a heavier, even material, if that makes sense. Like, think of like someone with like really thick clothing. I know that seems kind of silly, but there's like this protection thing. They have this thing for like thicker cloth a lot of times. They just feel more protected, and they are very on defense because they do think the world is a scary place. They do think, they are very realistic, but almost like too realistic and headed toward that more pessimistic side because, they've encountered a lot of things. When you have a Scorpio Sun or any of these planets, it's a transition. It's always something's transitioning in your life. And so you do go through things. I go through things a little heavier than like other signs. So in their rising and how they see the world can sometimes be pretty dark and pretty heavy and just a little more difficult. And they don't trust people. So that's in itself, they meet someone, they instantly think that they have ulterior motives. Like that's just in their makeup. So for the rising. So those are the planets. And now we're going to go to the houses. I need a drink of water. My throat is like, ugh. All right. So this high-pitched thing. Scorpio in the first house. This, like, if you mix a Scorpio and an Aries energy, right? You have the Scorpio who's like mysterious. And then you have like Aries, who's like loud. So it's like this kind of loud energy, very abrupt, intense, very serious, but it's like loud. So it's like, it's just kind of awkward. These people are like health freaks. They're really good at taking care of their bodies. A little different than the sixth house. Like when I think of and we'll go into it, but just to give you an example, like Scorpio in the first house, like fitness, working out, protein, like that sort of thing. Scorpio in the sixth house is more like, okay, how many fruits and vegetables did I consume today? And did I nourish my body? And did I spend enough time in the sun? And did I spend too much time in the sun? So there's kind of that difference of like how they take care of their health. Like a Scorpio in the first house, very athletic, very fitness, driven by, energy and just being fit.
That's so funny. Now I have to go check my ex's birth chart again, because when I was with him, I was a raw vegan and we worked out twice a day.
Yeah. Oh, I'm telling you, you need to look at the chart. Scorpio in a few houses, it gives them energy, and they do kind of obsess over their health, because Scorpio, they're very aware of their health.
Yeah, I'm so fascinated. Now I got to go find out.
Yeah, let me know. Send me a little message and say it was this. Okay, so Scorpio in the second house. They are resistant. I'm like, sorry, my eyesight. Good with finances, possessive with their things. Scorpio, like possessive, is kind of like one of their dominant traits. So second house, house of possessions. Whatever is theirs is theirs. They don't like to share. These are the children that are like quartering all the toys at daycare, and they're like, get your own toys. These are mine. Even though they're not mine, I played with them first, so now they're mine. So Scorpio, and it's opposite, right? So Taurus and Scorpio are polarity. Second house is represented by Taurus. So there is this thing when you have a Scorpio sun in the second house. Scorpio is all about their own, or benefiting things from other people, where Scorpio Taurus is about getting possessions for themselves. And so it's kind of there's this tug of war, I would say, when you have Scorpio in the second house, of like, how do I get things? How do I make money? Do I do it myself and, figure it out? Because it's in the second house. That's kind of second house likes to make their own money, whereas Scorpio likes to use other people's resources. So it's like, or do I just marry someone with money and utilize their resources? So there is this kind of like tug of war when I see a Scorpio sun in the second house, of the struggle of trying to figure out how they make money and what will be more beneficial for them, doing it on their own or relying on other people. It's a really difficult internal thing for Scorpios. Not a bad placement. It's just that internal fighting of trying to figure out, do I get my own job or do I use someone else's money? Sorry. Scorpio in the third house. They like to be in control of conversations. They like to speak very direct, and it can give them a little bit of a more fun, lighter personality. Scorpios are very heavy. I'm not saying they're going to trust you right off the bat with their Scorpio in the third house, but they are more inclined to listen to you and try to get to know you versus just being like, nope. So it kind of brings them like a little bit of lighter energy. Sometimes Scorpio in the third house can be issues with siblings. Scorpio, I don't know what it is exactly about the energy of Scorpio in the third house, but they do fight with siblings a lot. It's a difficult. Siblings, third house is Gemini, communication, but also that siblings kind of thing there. So it does make it kind of difficult for them to get along with their siblings. But it's not a bad placement. I do like when I see someone with a Scorpio sun in the third house, because I'm like, oh, you're not too heavy. And communication is important, and Scorpios tend to be so deep and just concerned with where the conversation is going. They don't really enjoy it. They're on a mission. So this kind of lightens that up a little bit. Scorpio in the fourth house. I can't say this like more clear. Don't fuck with their family. They will cut you, because their family, they're protective. This gives them like that motherly instinct, like mother hen kind of vibes. Family is everything. and anyone messes with their family, they take it they probably take it more personal than if it were attack on them. They like are super protective, and the family, they do a lot for the family. This is a placement for someone who can come into like you like land. This is kind of random, but one of the things with the houses and having signs in them, you get different like gifts and things. And so for Scorpio in the fourth house, this is something like land can be gifted to you, or maybe it's like a home. Like this is a good placement for someone who gets like an inheritance or things like that. So because it shines really bright in this house for a number of reasons. Like it's protective. It's almost like gifts, generational gifts that kind of are sent down. Like when you have this placement, like those kind of come into fortune in this lifetime, in your lifetime of your sun being in the fourth house, Scorpio sun being in the fourth house. So if you received an inheritance of a lot of land or homes or something, this is a good placement to indicate that you will receive those fortunes. Fun fact. Scorpio in the fifth house. There's a lot with this one. I'm going to touch the bases. The fifth house is like Leo energy, right? Very front and centered, very like me. And Scorpio is selfish in its own way, but it's not selfish in a look at me kind of way, everyone all eyes on me. Scorpios actually like to be in the dark, and they like to be hidden, and they like to kind of do their own thing. So the fifth house puts them in a situation to where they're always being pushed into like I would think of like a celebrity that maybe didn't want fame, or like, oh, like Kendall Jenner would be like a good example. She's a Scorpio. I don't know what house hers is in, but this would be an example where she was brought up in fame. She may not necessarily want it. She has anxiety. She has all these issues. And it really could derive from the fact that she's had to be in front of cameras her whole life. Or now she's modeling. She enjoys that. But it's like, it's just one of those placements that it's really hard because it's taking, and it's good to get out of your comfort zone. But when it's constant and you're constantly in the spotlight and you're not trying to be, that could be pretty heavy. They struggle with intimate relationships because there's this very lightness, very shallow, energy to the fifth house. It's like first like lust, not even love. It's like initial fun little meetings with people, and Scorpio is just not like that. Scorpio wants to like meet you and stick their claws into you and know every single thing that's happened in your life, and they want to know how and what it made you feel like, and they want the depth. And fifth house isn't a really deep house, but on a positive note, it can bring in a creative side. And it can make them very theatrical. They're going to be thrown in the spotlight. They might as well figure out how to survive and start tap dancing or something, because that's kind of what happens. They get forced into this life of entertaining or being in the spotlight. Kids that grow up with parents who live vicariously through their kids for the sports that they miss, this is a placement for that. They're like, oh, you're going to play all these sports that I didn't thrive in because I want to live vicariously through you. These kids. Scorpios, fifth house energy. So not a bad thing, but very difficult for a lot of them. Scorpio in the sixth house. This one is really good because Scorpio and Virgo energy really mesh well. They really vibe. Virgo energy is tidy. It is helping others. And it thinks very deeply, and gives them like a sense of kind of direction, and it also makes them feel valued because they're doing for others, and so in turn that kind of really rewards them internally. So these people could be really good writers. The sixth house Virgo Mercury energy, think of like Mercury thinking, Scorpio deep, like Edgar Allan Poe. I don't know what he was. He was probably a Scorpio. Somebody could Google that for me. I guarantee you some water sign for sure. Maybe Earth, but I'm guessing water. But just the things that they write or they could come up with the depth of the Scorpio and just the way the process of Mercury could be a really beautiful position for like a really good writer. Scorpio in the 7th house, intense and flirty, which terrify me. You know, like someone that's trying to flirt, but they're being way too intense. I'm like, I don't know. For some people, I think they really love that. For me, I'm like, it terrifies me. Can be a little more silly, long-term relationship types. So, and honestly, Scorpio in the 7th house is not a favorable placement. It's very difficult. They're very different energies. And so I think kind of how I was saying in the 2nd house, there's this like pull of like how to do this, how to do that. In the 7th house, I would say that the energy of the Scorpio is very still heavy and deep and has this like connection with like spiritual realms. But then when it's in the 7th house, it tries to live more on this earth realm, and it causes this like difference of personality. Like there's loss of like who they are. They're like, okay, I feel this and I'm this, but I also feel like this, and it's very different. And so it can be very confusing because, you know, they're very like, I'm this way, this is who I am. The 7th house kind of skews that up a little bit, and it makes it a little more confusing, and not they don't understand themselves as well as they would say in the 8th house. Great transition. Let's go into the 8th house. Scorpio in the 8th house is at home, comfortable, witchy, occult, a lot of depth to this person, a lot of sex drive. I mean, a lot of sex workers are Scorpios. It's a very sexual sign. And in the 8th house, it's like home. So I put stripper placement because I know I have a ton of friends that are strippers, and a lot of them are Scorpios, and I look at their charts and I'm like, yeah, 8th house makes sense. Like it's truly like you're living out they're working from, they're using sex as work and other people's resources. It goes hand in hand. They're like barely having to do anything, and they're just like, this is nice, you know? I'm taking this guy's money and I'm not even doing anything, being sexual, which is what they love. So this is like a perfect placement for someone in that career path. And there's no shade on that path. I'm just saying, like, this would be the perfect placement. Witchy, occult, these people are really so deep and so into the spiritual realm that they would make a great I forget what they're called. These would just be good people for astrology, you know, witchy projects, doing like the communication with like the dead. They can connect to the spiritual world in a very real way that gives them like their intuition's really good. I haven't touched on Scorpio and their intuition, but they have really good intuition. And so all of the depth and then death, they deal with death really well. So they're so connected to that realm that the dead, they literally can, you know, be mediums and just speak and, you know, kind of do that work for other people that are like, I want to communicate with, you know, someone from the past. Like that would be a really good person to look into. Scorpio, I would trust a Scorpio and the 8th house placement. So a lot of Scorpio energy there. Scorpio in the 9th house. This one's a lot lighter. So I talk a lot about the 9th house and people that research things. I talked about Virgo, how Virgo checks facts, and how like a Libra would be down the rabbit hole of like random things all the time, looking and searching and just accepting everything. And Scorpio kind of has that Virgo energy, but they're less likely to go off on topics that aren't beneficial for them. You will never find a Scorpio in the 9th house researching about something that won't benefit them or their family. They're just not going to do it. If it involves them, oh yeah, they will research, they will detective. If you need to know of somebody, what someone's past is, this is a good place. They love to search, they love to look for things. This is a really good placement for that because they have that energy to search, to find, and they're resourceful because they can like, oh, I can pull this information. Oh, you know what? I'm going to look here. Things that most people don't think of, they're checking and really looking out. But it has to be something they're interested in, something that's going to benefit them or their family. They're not just going to go off on some random like, oh, was it the egg or the chicken first? They don't know. They're not really, they don't give a shit about that. They want to know what's going to benefit something somewhere. Like if all the water dries up, where am I going to search and read? Like, how am I going to get water? Like those are things that they're thinking of, not philosophical, whatever. They don't care about that. 10th house, Scorpio. I say cells because Scorpios like power, they like to be on top, they like to rise. And so cells is kind of a way they're very manipulative. So they literally can use their mind to manipulate yours into buying or whatever the cells is. It doesn't necessarily have to be buying something. They're selling something and they can manipulate it in a way that makes you think you really do need it or whatever the cell is. So they're really good at cells because of that. I know a ton of Scorpio people that are in cells. Like they play this part, this very outgoing part, and maybe that's who they are. I know a Scorpio, he's in cells. He's actually one of my best friend's husband. He has a Libra moon and a Sagittarius rising. He's very outgoing, very fun, but he's into cells because he knows how to work people. They know how to work people. And I'm like, man, like, I don't think I could just, that's a lot of energy for me. But no, it comes so naturally to them. They got this in the bag. They're very serious in business. They use intuition, kind of like I was saying with Cancers and Pisces. They get so far in careers and especially in corporate careers because they use their intuition and they trust in the decisions that they make are beneficial because they feel it. They know it's a good decision. This is the same case with Scorpio. They're very intuitive. They trust their instincts. They are, however, they can be reactive. So one of the things I find with Scorpios that a lot of people don't talk about or even really notice is they do get themselves in sticky situations because they're so quick to be like, that's what I want. I'm going to do that. And it's like they do think about things, but they also are very much fixed. And so they're like, this is the right decision. I'm going to do this. And then they're like, later, it kind of comes back and can bite them in the ass because they didn't spend a super amount of time thinking about things. They find themselves in that kind of like, oh, I should have maybe not done that. So they trust their intuition, but sometimes they're very quick to just be like, nope, that's what I want. And they're very direct and straight and not a lot of time spent on it. So that sometimes in this placement can bite them in the arse. Okay, the 11th house. So asshole vibes for sure. You know, the 11th house, Aquarians, they like to be alone. They do their own thing. Scorpios like to be alone. So when you have a Scorpio sun in the 11th house, they like to be alone. Scorpio feels a lot. 11th house energy is very direct. There's no like, oh, maybe I shouldn't hurt this person's feelings. They don't really care. They can be a real asshole in this placement. Now, other things in their chart can balance that out and make them not. But typically, Scorpio in the 11th house, I find them to be very direct and very just kind of assholes. I never really vibe with a Scorpio in the 11th house because they're also possessive of friends. And I'm not one of those friends that you can be like, you're my friend, because I have a lot of friends and I like to hang out with different friends at different times depending on what my mood is. That's just who I am. I've always been this way. And I find that when I have a Scorpio friend in the 11th house, they want to possess me. They're like, oh, she's your best friend, but like I am your friend and you can't have more than one friend. They can be very much like that. I don't like that. Don't tell me who I can't be friends with. But they kind of carry that energy. And again, loner is kind of like Aquarius energy with Scorpio. They don't need a ton of friends. They enjoy them, but this could really channel some like loner energy. Scorpio in the 12th house. Witchy or spiritual. Very divine. Carries ancestral curses. So I'm going to dig into that just a little bit because Scorpio in the 12th house can go different ways. It can be a placement of loss. It can be, a heavy placement of loss depending on the other placements. But I like to think of it as like I was going into like Scorpio into the 4th house and how you get rewarded and you receive gifts and land and whatnot. But Scorpio in the 12th house, it kind of, they do flow. It's almost like Scorpio enjoys being sad. Have you ever met people that are like, they like being sad, or they like being mad, or they like everything bad happens to them, but they just seem to like it? This is that placement. It's like, oh, all these things keep happening to me. Damsel in distress, 1000%. But they kind of enjoy it. It's not so damning on their soul because they're like, they live through that and they just enjoy it. So, but they also could be probably very spiritual, very intuitive to the point to where they don't trust anyone and they don't like anyone. So, but yeah, that's all the houses and planets for Scorpio. So let me know if you have any questions. Happy to answer them. And now I'm probably going to go mute and Julie's going to talk.
What we got here? We got the detective, the sorcerer, the therapist, and the surgeon, which I just find that to be an interesting combination of things. The high road today is magnetic, intimate, sensual, transformation, therapist, and healer, and the low road is jealous, power hungry, obsessive, control, and brooding. Fun.
Brooding, that's the house.
That's it. The life lesson, the polarity is Taurus. That tracks. Life lessons are emotional honesty, letting go of control, that it's safe and it's good to cry. The esoteric is destruction of personality, soul as a singular purpose, and tenderness is acceptable. Scorpio rules the genitals. We will come back to you guys on a video from Kat on this one. I'm curious to see what the exercise for that would be. Let's see. Okay, and then that's basically all of our slides. I'm so proud of us.
Hey, we did
We're
it.
winging it today a little bit. Yay. If you have any questions, we're here to answer them. Oh, I had a question and I cannot think of what it is now. Well, I was thinking though, you were saying like very dark, like vibes in between the worlds. I was like, that's such a Hecate, like kind of energy, like the key holder between the two different dark realms.
Yeah, no, they're like that underworld and earth, like they play with that realm a lot. We had I is my old boss, she's a Pisces, her daughter's a Scorpio, and her Mercury is in Scorpio. She's very, very direct.
Wow.
Very.
Yeah. I just don't know where anyone's placements of Scorpio are on my friends list. I'm like, I think I don't have any like close Scorpio friends anymore. It wasn't like secrets aren't healthy for me.
Yeah. No. I'm trying to think. So mine, who was I looking at? I think I looked at Sky's actually, Jamie, that responded, because I was like going through my Scorpio people. And I think hers was in the 4th house, which is interesting because she probably will inherit her mom's home because her mom is giving it to her now. That pretty sure hers was in the 4th. So, but it's like inheriting land or, structures, things like that. My son's Mercury can take things so literally. Yes, they're very like to the point, and they will like everything that you say, they hang on to. They're like, okay, you said this. Like you tell your son you're going to do something, girl, you better do it because he's going to hold you. He is not, he's going to be super upset. His Jupiter is also in Scorpio. Do you have thoughts on Jupiter in Scorpio? Yeah. So Jupiter is all about luck and prosperity and things like that. And so when you have it in Scorpio, I mean, he probably will receive a lot of resources and benefits, like financial beneficial benefits from, other people. Also, something that could be really good for him in having a Scorpio and Jupiter is just like being very spiritual and like accepting that and being understanding and accepting that, because a lot of times when you have those placements, it's like it needs to be like set in stone or facts, or it needs to work this way. And it's like, it's okay if it works a little differently. If it's like very spiritual, is just as good as, you know, you can make a career out of being spiritual just as easily as you could like going to a 9 to 5. You know, there's different avenues for income, and that's something to maybe just always encourage him to, whatever he feels in his heart, to make sure that he does, even if it seems like kind of off, if that makes sense. There's no one way to make money or be successful or have things in life. You can do things in different ways. Maybe he'll want to be a stripper when he gets older.
What every mother wants to hear.
I feel like Megan is probably like, you know what, if that's what let him be happy. But that's like, oh, it's not really good, but I mean, it's okay. It's, you know. He will study astrology and be an astrologist.
I don't know if we have any more. I'm like, this is my first time doing this from a phone. It's so different.
Yeah, I'm like, go that way. And you can always message us if you are like, my question didn't get answered. Sometimes I through. So if you have a question, message me, Julie. One of us can help you.
Yes. And then what are we covering next week? I forget.
So next week is Sagittarius.
Ooh, fun.
Favorite signs.
That's going to be a super fun one.
Huh?
That's going to be a super fun one.
Yes, I might bring champagne.
Ooh, I have a stellium in Sagittarius, so maybe me too.
It's my rising, and it's honest. So go into this one day, but you have dominant planets in your chart that kind of take over, and my most dominant planet, Sagittarius, and I totally see that because I'm like, oh,
yeah, that's going to be a fun one.
Yeah.
Well, I don't think we have anything else for today, but thank you for joining and sitting in, and everyone who participated. And if you have any questions, message us.
Thank you. Enjoy Mexico. So jealous.
Thank you. I'll be back tonight.
Yay.